Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Tracy Toothaker. I'm the Director of Recruiting here at Worldwide. I'm joined by our senior recruiter on the team, Kelsi Robinson. And today we're excited to talk through a mock interview situation for any upcoming interview that you might have with an employer here in the United States, and just kind of what that journey looks like and the steps involved for that process. So thank you so much for tuning in. And we also would love to know where you're joining us in the world. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Would love to know where that might be. So drop that in the chat, and then we will be sure to shout out those of you that are joining us from all over. So thank you for tuning in. Couple of things that we're going to cover today are just going to walk you through what to expect in your interview with Worldwide Health Staff Solutions and one of our many employers. We'll talk a little bit about some practice interview questions, and specifically, Kelsi and I will run through a kind of mock interview situation of how those go, what to expect, and then what happens after the actual interview. So we'll be sure to answer any questions along the way, and obviously, this will be great preparation for future interviews, or especially if you have an interview scheduled and coming up. And quick reminder that we have several opportunities we are working diligently to schedule folks for. So if you have interest in one of our many opportunities, please apply directly, or our team will be putting the link in the chat to apply directly. And then, of course, if you're already working with the recruiter, reach out to them about what's coming up and what's available. We have a lot of really exciting opportunities. Okay. So I know we just ran through kind of what we were gonna cover today, but this is our agenda again, and we'll do. One thing I didn't mention is just some reminders and an overall recap, some good takeaways for you to bring to your interview, or keep in mind as you prepare for an interview. Okay, so just a quick highlight of what interviewing in the United States is like. Your recruiter will schedule a preparation call with you about 24 to 48 hours in advance. This is not a mandatory requirement, but something we recommend just to get you feeling like you're ready to go and have all of your questions answered. And then, of course, to just set some expectations from the client side. And then once you are scheduled with a client of ours, you can expect a 30-minute interview with them. And typically there's 1 to 2 unit leaders on the call from the hospital that are going to be hosting the interview. And we typically generate our preparation call based off of feedback from those. So it should be fairly similar to what your recruiter prepares you for. And then lastly, there's always a Worldwide Health Staff representative that will be on the interview with you and the unit leaders to help with any technical issues, or just if there's questions that arise on our side, that they'll be there to assist with. Kelsi, anything else that you might add there?
I just kind of want to reiterate, Tracy, what you were talking about with the leaders from the hospital interviewing you. That is one of the unique things with direct hire, is that your worldwide recruiter is not the person that's going to conduct your interview and make your hiring decision. You actually get to meet with somebody from the hospital during your interview process and before you make a decision about whether or not that hospital is the right fit for you. And so, of course, while an interview is a chance for the interviewer to get to know you and your skills and experience, it's also a chance for you to ask some questions to the interviewer about what to expect working there, what their units are like, what their orientation process is like. Do they have any other international nurses that work in their hospital? And so preparing for an interview isn't just about, making sure you're ready to answer their questions, but it's also making sure that you're able to ask the questions that you need. And so that is something unique about our interview opportunities and unique about direct hire, is that you get that opportunity to meet with somebody from the hospital before you make this life-changing decision to move forward.
Thank you so much, Kelsi. Yeah, great call out. I think that's something notable to highlight, that you'll have kind of a prep interview that will be with your recruiter, but then, yeah, of course, the direct interview with with the unit leaders in the hospital. So thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay. All right. So next up, you're going to listen to Kelsi and I kind of go back and forth for our interview prep, and then kind of the mock interview portion, or really kind of overarching what the interview prep call will sound like, which includes a bit of a mock interview portion. So to set the tone here, Kelsi is going to play the role of the Worldwide Health Staff Recruiter, which she is in fact a Worldwide Health Staff Recruiter. And then I'm going to play the role of the candidate. And so we'll just kind of walk through what that looks like. So Kelsi, whenever you're ready,
Awesome. Let's go ahead and get started. And as we're sharing these interview tips and doing a practice confirmation, drop your questions in the chat, or if you think there's something that, is important to highlight in your interview, we want to hear from you. Go ahead and drop those things in the chat as we get started. Like Tracy said, I'm going to pretend to be the recruiter, and we're going to do a pretend mock interview. So usually the way we start out is I will just introduce myself and I'll say, hi, Tracy, I'm your recruiter, Kelsi. Thanks so much for meeting me today. I'm so excited for your upcoming interview with Common Spirit. What we want to do today is confirm your interview details. I'll explain what is expected in the interview itself. I can answer any questions you might have about interviewing or the immigration process, and then we can do a few practice questions. Does that sound all right with you?
Yes,
awesome.
Thank you.
So it looks like we have you scheduled for Common Spirit at their Glendale Memorial Hospital in Glendale, California. That interview is going to be on April 20th, and that's at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Can you confirm where you're currently located?
Sure, I'm in the
Awesome.
Philippines.
So that's going to be 8 p.m. Philippines time for you on April 20th. Does that still work with your schedule?
Okay, great. Yes, it does.
Awesome. So on the day of the interview, my team will reach out to you via email to confirm your attendance and to send you the Zoom link. All of our interviews are conducted via Zoom, so it's important that you have Zoom downloaded and ready to go on the day of your interview. You're going to interview with someone from the hospital, likely a unit manager or a hiring manager. They're going to ask you questions about your skills and experience, and it's really important for you to prepare a couple of questions for them as well. You can ask a variety of questions in your interview.
Okay, great. Yeah, what specifically are some of the questions you think I should ask?
That's a great question. So there are some questions that are great to ask in an interview and some that maybe aren't the best to ask. The ones that are great to ask are about the unit or the hospital or the location. You can ask about the nurse to patient ratio or the orientation process. But if you have questions about benefits, salary, or immigration process, you can direct those questions to me. These are, of course, really important things for you in your decision, but they're not always the best to ask about in an interview because it can make the interviewer feel like that's the only thing that you care about in the interview. So if you have questions about benefits, salary, or the immigration process, you should ask your recruiter instead.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you for that. How long do these interviews usually take?
So each of our interviews usually lasts about 30 minutes. This gives enough time for the interviewer to introduce themselves and get to know you and then ask you a series of questions. Usually they're going to ask about 5 to 6 questions, but this will depend on the interviewer specifically. And then after the interview, they will find out if they want to make you an offer. And if they do, once we have the salary amount, we can extend the offer to you. That is another unique thing about direct hire is that the salary is calculated based on your years of experience. So we don't know the salary amount in advance. It's calculated after you interview. If they do make you an offer, you'll have 7 business days to review the offer and make your decision. So I really encourage you to research the hospital and the location prior to interviewing. And then if they don't make you an offer or you decide to decline the offer, you and I will continue to work together to find other opportunities that are the right fit for you.
Okay, that sounds great. So what happens if I do to sign a contract?
That's a great question. So once you sign a contract, that means you get to begin your immigration process. That means that employer is your sponsor for your visa petition, and you'll get to work with one of our amazing case managers to begin your petition filing. They'll get all of the documents that they need, get your petition filed and reviewed by our attorney, and then you'll begin your immigration process.
Okay, great. That's exciting. How long does the immigration process take?
So right now, the expected timeline is 18 to 24 months. Our team is always monitoring the visa bulletin and watching the retrogression so that we can provide you with the most updated information. Do you have any other questions about the immigration process?
Yeah, just a couple more. I have a family that I plan to bring with me. Is that something that I
Yeah,
can do?
absolutely. We encourage you to bring your family with you because transitioning to a new country is a really big journey, and we want to make sure that you have support. The great thing about these EB3 petitions is that you can add your spouse and any of your biological or legally adopted children who are under the age of 21, and they'll receive green cards as well. And that means that your spouse will be able to work when you get to the US, and your kids will be able to be enrolled in public school.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
great. Thank you. That's
of
important
course.
to me. And then what about if I decide to take a different path interimly before I come to the United States? Do I have to stay in bedside through the immigration
Yes, staying in
process?
bedside is super, super important. And this is because the immigration process can take upwards of 2 years. And so we want to make sure that when you get to the US, you're arriving with current and bedside experience. That way you can start working in the hospital without a lot of additional training. Now, it's totally okay to move hospitals or even move countries if you decide, you want to start your journey in the UK and then come to the US, or maybe in the UAE and then come to the US. But it's important that you stay in bedside and important that you stay in a similar type of unit like the one you've been hired for. So if you get a job offer for med-surg, it'll be important for you to stay in med-surg during the immigration process. That way you can arrive in the US with current and relevant bedside experience. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for
Yeah, great
clarifying.
question. Do you have any other questions about what to expect for the interview?
I do. Yeah, I'm curious if what happens if I need to cancel, and should I have my camera
Yeah.
on? What should I
Those are all
wear?
great questions. If you need to cancel your interview, it's important to let your recruiter know in advance. We have a lot of nurses interested in our interview opportunities, and so we want to make sure that if you're not able to attend, we're able to give that interview spot to someone else. You should have your camera on in the interview. It's a really great way to help the interviewer get to know you and connect with you. But if you're in an area that has a poor internet connection, sometimes we'll advise you to turn your camera off just to make sure that we have a strong connection. And then, as far as what to wear for the interview, it's best to wear a business casual outfit or something nice. However, if you're on duty while you're interviewing or you've just come home from work, it is totally okay to interview in your scrubs. We understand it. You have a busy life, and we want to make sure that you're able to get to your interview on time. Awesome.
Great. Okay,
Well, I
thank
think
you.
we should do a couple of practice questions to help you prepare for your interview. What do you think about that?
Sure. I'm a little
Okay,
nervous,
yeah,
but
let's do
sure.
some questions. It's okay to be nervous. That's why we're doing this call here today so that we can work these things out and I can give you any advice that I have. I'll ask you the question and pretend like I'm the interviewer. You can give me your answer, and then I'll just let you know if there's anything you should change or do differently or that I recommend. Does that sound okay?
That sounds
Awesome.
great. Thank you.
The first question that interviews almost always start with is tell me about yourself and your nursing experience.
Sure. So I have several years of nursing experience, all mainly within the emergency department, and I love nursing and have really enjoyed my time taking care of people. And I have a family to take care of too. I have two children that I love and adore, and we like just spending time with each other on the weekends, and we love to go on walks and sightsee.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I think it's great to highlight your passion for nursing. I would recommend that you start out by introducing yourself, giving your first and last name. This can really help the interviewer know how to address you. It's okay to mention your family, but I really wouldn't spend too much time talking about it. Interviews, especially in the US, want to be more focused on your work experience. I think it was great that you highlighted your emergency department experience, but you should talk a little bit more about that. Try to talk about the types of areas that you've worked in, the types of cases and patients that you've handled, and also if you what type of equipment that you've handled. If you use electronic or paper charting, you can mention this in your interview as well. And also your nurse to patient ratio. For any answer that you give in your interview, you want to talk for about 1 to 2 minutes. If you give too short of an answer, the interviewer won't really be able to get a good grasp of your experience, and they won't want to make you an offer because of that. Yeah.
Okay, that's good
Awesome.
advice. Thank
All
you.
right. The next question is, tell me about the most difficult patient or patient family member that you've encountered. What was the situation and how did you handle it?
Yeah, I've had a patient before that was waking up and very confused and was upset and was not really sure what was going on. And I know that they were scared to be in the hospital and wanted to make sure that they were informed of everything that had been going on. And in the emergency department, there are times when things like that happen, and those aren't really aware of what their severity of their injury is. And so I know that when this person started to wake up and just started to show some of these emotions, we very quickly just made sure that he was aware of what was happening and educated him on why he was there and the type of injury that he had. And we did our best to calm him down.
Awesome. I think that's great. With these types of questions, you can either talk about a patient situation like you just did, or sometimes we encounter difficult family members in the hospital, and you can talk about that as well. The most important thing is to be really specific in your answer. So you talked about one specific time that happened, which is great. Um, it's always good to talk not just about the problem, but also how you solved the problem as well, especially if you use your team members or a manager to help you solve the problem. This can really show interviewers that you work well with other team members, and can help them see, how you choose to problem solve at work. So that was great. Awesome job.
Great, thank you.
Let's do one more practice question just to make sure you've got all those nerves out. We know that nursing can be really busy and draining sometimes. You can get really tired. How do you balance a busy day at work when you have a lot of patients, maybe a lot of new patients? How do you manage all of the busyness at work?
Yes, and it is very busy and hectic, especially with emergency medicine. And I think some things that I do in the workplace are when I am working alongside my teammates, I lean on them for perspective and share with them any frustrations. And then outside of the workplace, I'm very close with my family, and we go on family walks together, and that helps manage my stress.
Awesome. I think that's great. I wouldn't change anything that you mentioned. I would, though, add on a little bit more detail about how you manage a lot of tasks at work. It's good to talk about how you prioritize tasks at work. So let's say you have, 5 new admissions into the emergency department. How do you determine who to help first and prioritize your tasks that way? And that can really show the interviewer that you can handle stress well and that you can manage your tasks well. So that was awesome, Tracy. Great
Great.
job. I think that you're ready for your interview. It's important to be confident in how you speak about your nursing experience. You have a lot of great emergency room experience, and the interviewer deserves a chance to get to know that. And so make sure to speak about your passion for nursing. One last piece of advice I'll give you before we finish up our mock interview is that sometimes you might want to write out your answers to the questions in advance or read your answers off of a computer screen or maybe get help from a family member. All of these things will lead to you not getting an offer in your interview. And so, if you really want to succeed in the interview, you need to make sure that you can answer these questions directly without the help of any sort of aids. If the interviewer sees you doing that in the interview, they will not make you an offer. And then we'll have to wait some time for you to prepare again to help you interview again. And we just don't want you to have those delays to your process. And so, yeah, that would be my last piece of advice. Great job,
Great.
Tracy. I think you're super ready for your interview.
Thank you, Kelsi. Okay,
Woohoo!
so
Yay!
yay. Yep, that's sort of what the full scope will sound like and look like when you're going through the interview process with a Worldwide Health Staff recruiter, and then of course with the actual hospital. So the interview itself again will be about 30 minutes, but those questions that Kelsi was asking me are pretty spot on with a lot of the questions that they're going to start out with. So thank you, Kelsi, for preparing me accordingly. um,
Absolutely. And if you're somebody that has an interview coming up and you want to get to do one of those practice interviews like Tracy and I just did, email your recruiter. Your recruiter has all of the tools to be able to have one of these calls with you directly. Just let them know, hey, I'd really like to do a practice this interview before my interview, and your recruiter will get that set up for you. This is a service we provide to every single nurse that we're working with that has scheduled for an interview, and we want to make sure that you have the resources that you need to succeed in your interview.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelsi. Okay. So like Kelsi was just mentioning, some reminders and an overall kind of way to close out the mock part of our webinar today is to smile, use specific examples and details as it relates to your experience as a nurse. Don't read off any notes or anything. I know it's tempting to, or, a great way to prepare, but use that solely to prepare. And then obviously just take a deep breath and get excited. It's an exciting time, especially a testament to your experience and obviously caliber as a nurse to be able to secure an interview. So it's an exciting time. Okay. I think we can take a look at the chat here. I know we've had several different comments looking through these. I know, thank you to those of you who shared with us where you're tuning in from. I know we've got a lot of great places. Looks like hi from Jordan, Nigeria, Windsor, UK, Saudi Arabia, Kenya, the Philippines.
We've got people from all over today, don't we, Tracy?
We do. This is so exciting.
Awesome. Yeah. I see a couple questions about the types of jobs that we hire for, specifically a job about jobs for clinical counselors or jobs for home care ventilated patients. It really depends on the openings that we have at the time that you apply. The large majority of our openings are for acute care RNs in a hospital setting, but that doesn't mean we don't want to talk with you about your application and see if we can maybe help you get an interview with the hospital. If you use that apply link that has been put in the chat, we'd love to receive your resume and get you in touch with the recruiter. Most of our roles do require NCLEX. And so if you've passed the NCLEX and you're wanting to work as an RN in the US, go ahead and click that link, send us your resume, and somebody will be in touch.
Great. Yes, thank you.
Let's see. And then Tracy, I see a couple of questions about people's individual experiences. One about being here in the US on an H-4 visa, and then also a question about the petition filing and delays. Each person's journey is unique in their processing, and so it's hard to make generalizations about what your experience is. But if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at recruiting@healthstaff.org, and we'd love to speak with you directly about your specific situation and see how we can best assist you.
Yeah, thanks, Kelsi. I know that is important. I know there's some other questions as a follow-up to that of qualifications. And as a reminder, the opportunities that we hire for and are actively interviewing for are, they do require you to have your NCLEX and to have at least 1 to 2 years of bedside nursing experience. So a couple of reminders about that.
Yep. Tracy, I see a great question here about interviewing. It says, if we want the interviewer to speak slowly, will that affect us negatively? It is important that you be able to communicate effectively with the interviewer, but if an interviewer asks a question that you don't understand, it is totally okay to say, hey, could you repeat that question for me? And that might give you a little bit of time to understand them better, or to maybe think through the answer to your question. And then I also see a question from Carlson. Recruiters from the hospital, are they going to ask like situational medical cases? This is really going to depend on the type of unit that you're interviewing for and the hospital. I would say that most of our interviewers are a bit more general in their questions, asking some of the questions that Tracy and I mentioned. But we can't know exactly the questions that they're going to ask every time, and they might ask some more situational types of cases. So it's always good to be prepared about to talk about your experience as a nurse and to give examples as well. This will really help you succeed in your interview.
These are great questions.
Yeah. Oh, I see an awesome question. Do you have any upcoming interviews for Common Spirit? Yes, we do hire for Common Spirit very regularly. They are a large partner of ours. We do have interviews coming up for them. The exact locations are specific to the unit, so talk with your recruiter. They can let you know what we have coming up.
Great question.
Let's see. Oh, I see a question. Do I have to cite examples for each interview question? The more examples that you can give in the interview, the better off you'll be. If you're too general in your answers, the interviewers will not like that. They really want you to be specific. And so try to give at least one example for each question that is asked. Let's see.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kels.
Yeah, no, you're good. I was looking at Yaz's question. Is it okay to ask what benefits are on an offer, such as wages, leave, 401k, and etc.? It's not super great to ask about this in an interview, just because sometimes if you ask about these types of things in an interview, it can make the interviewer think that that is your sole care or your sole purpose in interviewing is for the benefits. These are, of course, important questions to ask. They're just better directed to your recruiter. Your recruiter can make sure that you have the benefits information from the hospital, and that way you can focus the interview on your nursing skills, which is really what the interviewer is going to want to talk with you about.
One other thing to note there too is that the interviewer may not have all of the details. Surely they, 401k and benefits, they'll have some familiarity being an employee of the hospital, but there's an element of wage and some other components to the offer that they might not have the information for. And that's something we will be able to provide you once you complete your interview.
Yep. I see a couple other great questions I want to highlight. Philly has a question. Can I apply without having passed the NCLEX exam? Right now, all of our positions do require NCLEX because they are RN positions. So we encourage you to take NCLEX. And I think there was a question earlier about NCLEX sponsorship. We don't currently have a path for NCLEX sponsorship, but we can provide you with some resources if you want to send us an email. Another question from Carlson, are you guys still actively recruiting nurses for Peace Health? Yes, we are. They have interviews happening today all the way through the beginning of May for their Oregon and Washington locations. We would love to speak with you about these opportunities. Please send your recruiter an email or email us at recruiting@healthstaff.org.
A couple other questions just about if not having any recent bedside or NCLEX possession quite yet. Obviously, please go ahead and apply directly. And we have recruiters standing by that can direct you and help provide resources to you if you don't necessarily qualify for the immediate positions we have available and are recruiting for now. But we do have a wide variety and would love to see how we can help you. So please go ahead and apply directly to us. We'd love to help you in your journey.
Yeah. Tracy, do we have time for a couple more questions? I see a couple of good ones in here.
I think we do. Yeah, we've got
awesome.
A couple more minutes.
Rudo wants to know, what are the best questions to ask the interviewer? This is one of my favorite questions. Great job, Rudo, for checking this out. It is so important to ask the interviewer questions. It really shows them that you're interested in the opportunity. My two favorite questions to ask an interviewer are, what is your nurse to patient ratio? Because this is can kind of give you an idea of what it's like to work in that unit. And then what is your orientation process like? You're going to be coming in to a new hospital, a new facility, and you want to know what kind of support that they provide to help you in your journey. And so those are my two favorite questions to ask. We have a whole list of questions we can send you if you have an interview coming up, but those are my two current favorite ones.
Those are great.
Let's see. Just somebody asked if I can repeat the email address. It's recruiting@healthstaff.org. Let's see. Can I apply without English exam? This is also one of my favorite questions to answer. Yes, you can apply without an English exam. If you're going on the EB3 path, the English exam is not required until you do your visa screen, and you can have your petition filed without visa screen. And so we encourage you to apply even if you haven't already done your English exam. Another one, is it possible to change the hospital when your petition is already filed? Typically, no, because this is direct hire sponsorship. Your employer is going to be your sponsor. And so that hospital or that employer is going to be your sponsor throughout the process. If you switch employers, it's likely that you'll have to restart at least some steps of the process. Tracy, anything else in there that I've missed? Some questions that we should highlight?
I think that hits a lot. I saw a couple others. There was one in here just saying, can we have a mock interview before the original interview? And absolutely. we would love to do that again. Not necessarily the interview prep calls that your recruiter will schedule with you isn't necessarily a requirement to interview with the client, but we would love to do that just as we sort of demonstrated here to be able to make sure that you're prepared. So.
Yep. And Carlson, I see your questions in the chat. I promise I see you. I actually have your application pulled up. I'm going to have your recruiter send you an email today and make sure that we get in touch with you. If you're somebody else that wants us to make sure that we see your application, hit up our live chat. The link is there, or email us at recruiting@healthstaff.org. We want to make sure that we give your application the attention that it deserves and that we can best assist you on your journey.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Great. Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for tuning in and your participation. We got some great questions today. I know if you have other questions, please, as Kelsi mentioned, feel free to reference our live chat or to reach out to your recruiter directly or apply directly online. And then also would love for you to like us on Facebook. We post several immigration updates and keep everybody in the loop of what we have available for new positions. So please go like us on Facebook. And then also, if there's anyone else that you know would be interested in working with us or interested in starting their journey to the United States, we'll also include our link to refer a nurse. And you have the opportunity to earn up to $250 for nurses that we are able to assist. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kelsi. We will see you very soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Tracy. Bye, everyone.
Bye.